This week on NWP, it's the all-new, all-different Pantsless Nerds.
No place to run, no place to run. The mutant age has now begun. X-Men, X-Men, this a day, X-Men, X-Men, coming your way. Magneto's hordes are on the way to pillage, burn, and plunder. But there's one team that will not yield, the team that strikes like thunder. X-Men, X-Men, this a day, X-Men, X-Men, coming your way.
Welcome. This is Stan Lee of Marvel Comics warning you to look around you. Your classmates, your friends. You never know which one of them may be a mutant.
Hello everyone and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, Episode 1, the gritty and hard reboot. I am your host, Peter Rasputin, and I'm joined as always by Sean Cassidy.
I'm Sean.
And we also have Kurt Wagner.
Hi.
And basically we got rid of those other losers that were on those last 50 episodes. Completely new format, new artist, new writer, new vision. No, I'm just kidding. It's Nerds Without Pants episode 51, guys. We're not rebooting. We're just gonna keep on trucking.
Thank God.
Patrick, you were worried.
Yeah, I'm so relieved we don't have that renumbering system going.
No, that gets really annoying, especially, when you try to go to iTunes. I don't know if you guys paid attention to, the One Up podcast, but, their main feed, the one that used to be, One Up Yours, it changed titles, 5 times, and that got really annoying to try to follow that. And we still have Angelo.
Hi. Again.
And I'm still Julian. And it's the same old bullshit. But this time, it's the listeners' bullshit, because they're going to provide us with some topics today. And I'm actually really excited about this, because they came up... I mean, the last episode where they came up with the topics was really fun, but I think they collectively outdid themselves this time, so happy to get into that. But before that, we'll get into Consumption Junction, and I feel like we need to hit up Patrick before, he starts to sleep it off.
So...
What have you been up to, Patrick?
I just went out to dinner. Well, I played Fez a little bit earlier today. I was really excited about that.
I'm glad one of us was. No, I'm sure you love it, right?
It's pretty fun. Have you played it?
No,
I played the demo. It seemed okay. I didn't see anything horrible about it or anything, but it didn't really grab me either. So.
It looks a lot like Cave Story, which was I don't know, blast from the past when my first 3DS days happened, but there's some 3D stuff that happens that's really cool and different, there's 2 different styles of art that one's 3D and one's 2D and they kind of mesh together, but the 3D pops out in the 2D world, so that's crazy. At least so far it's been crazy, and there's a lot of spinning and stuff like that when the 3D comes out, and it's great, and it's a mind fuck for everybody in Fez world, this guy Gomez. And then the Fez comes down out of the light in the sky. It's funny and over the top, and at the same time really adorable. So I really like it. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Angelo.
I was gonna say not that I didn't like it, it's just it didn't grab me. Now I played Cave Story. I played it years ago before it ever got a console release, on the PC when it was still just a PC game. And I really liked Cave Story, but I didn't really see, and maybe I didn't play it long enough to get there. I guess just the exploration element's the same, and I think that I love the idea he had where you use the pivoting of the 3D to kind of, that is the puzzle aspect of the game. But after I played the demo, I didn't really feel the urge to I have to buy this game and play it. And I was yeah, that was neat. And I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah, I heard there's a really good story and a twist at the end, kind of like Braid or something like that. So I'm going to play through the whole thing and find that out. But hopefully it's a little bit deeper or something, because I agree. It's kind of like Pushmo in some ways, where you twist the game around and then you can jump based on the way that you're looking at it or your perspective. So it's not completely unique or anything. Hopefully they use it in ways that I wouldn't expect or something. And the art style and the storyline carry it or something like that. But I'm still glad it was free because I was thinking about getting it either way and got it on PS Plus like I thought I would, so I freaked out.
You did do that. I mean, my thing, and I followed that game for a while, cause I thought, like, I forget, I mean, it must have been a good, like, maybe 2 or 3 years before it came out where they started showing it at, like the Independent Games Festival and stuff like that. And it looked really cool to me. And by all notions, it's an incredible game and it's something I would probably be right up my alley. I just don't like Phil Fish. Like, I'm sorry, like, it's very rare for me to, like, put my foot down and say, I do not want to support you, sir, because I just do not want to have anything to do with you. But even for free, I just don't want to play it. Like, I don't want to give him the satisfaction of, like, me really loving that game and starting to talk really good about his stuff, because after Indie Game the movie, and it was I don't know, it was before Indie Game the movie. Like, it was just hearing stuff about him in the media, then watching Indie Game the movie, and then hearing more from him after the fact, where I was like, no, you're just I don't like anything about you, sir, so I don't want to support your game. I know it sounds really harsh, but...
No, I hear that a lot, actually, about Phil Fish. Like, there's a lot of just, people can't stand the guy, so...
Yeah,
I think
it's
you just gotta let the game stand by itself or something, though. Like, there's the game and then there's him, and, like, even though the game came from him, the game is not him, you know, so...
Right, and I know, and normally I'm the one that's, you know, pounding that drum, you know, like, I think, for me, like, the first time that happened was, like, well, the first time it really happened hardcore for me was after Chris Benoit, the pro wrestler, died, because he murdered his family and killed himself, and I was like, I really love watching this guy's matches. And it was hard for me to be like, but he's a murderer. But he's one of the best wrestlers that I've ever seen. And I had to, like, be like, okay, I need to, like, separate, you know, or try to separate the work from the man, because, you know, it's terrible what he did at the end, but I think it was a thing done out of craziness, you know, and he was in a really bad way. Now, I realize that I just said that, like, I will watch the work of a murderer, and I don't want to play the work of Phil Fish, so I'm a total hypocrite. But there's also the fact that I actually haven't seen any Chris Benoit matches since he died, so maybe, you know, I could have gone out and, like, try to get his DVDs or try to seek out the stuff. I mean, I have the friggin' WWE Network, and I haven't tried to look at any of his old matches. So maybe, you know, maybe I don't separate as much as I thought, but usually that's where I'm at, is like, oh, well, no, there's the artists, and then there's the art. And if you don't like the artists, you can still enjoy the art, but, you know, I just don't want to enjoy the Fez art. Maybe I will. I will go ahead and download it because it's for free.
Right.
Add it to the hard drive. It's on PS4, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, Phil Fish is the reason that these big companies pay so much to PR firms.
Right.
Because you know that there's people like him that work on all the games we love somewhere, but there's PR people that are just like, no, we're going to handle the press. You stay back there and you do your work. You're good. You're a great person. You're fantastic. Let us talk to the press.
Well, yeah, and definitely some higher end people have learned the hard way, like David Jaffe and, Borderlands Man. Borderlands Man. I can only remember his Twitter handle, Duval Magic, but that's not him. You know, the lead guy at Gearbox, like, he's definitely said some stuff that he regretted saying afterwards, and PR is like, no, just stop. We'll take it from here. I'm glad you're enjoying it though, Patrick. I know that it's got like a huge like rabbit hole that you can fall down into, so I'm gonna be interested to see if you fall down that rabbit hole and, you know, probably try to avoid as much, reading online of it as you can and just like try to puzzle through as best you can, because I heard the discovery of it is like, you know, the big thing.
Okay, yeah, I'll try not to cheat. Oh, yeah. So that'll be good. I mean, then there's also Road Not Taken for you, I guess, Julian. But we get Crisis, which I also held off on. So there's a bunch of really cool PS Plus stuff overall this month, I think.
What's Road Not Taken? I haven't heard of that.
It's like another puzzler. I don't know, it looks kind of like Plants vs. Zombies or something, where there's like squares on a grid that you move around with, but I didn't look too much into it, and it's another like cutesy kind of cell shaded 2D vibe, like sprite based kind of game, but I think it's also roguelike or something.
Oh, okay. Man, from the title, like, I was picturing, like, some sort of, like, gritty, like, introspective, like, story-based thing.
No.
Way off.
Another little indie thing. It might not be roguelike, not sure about that, but that might just be Rogue Legacy what I'm confusing it with. But regardless, yeah, I think it'll be up your alley too.
Yeah. I own Rogue Legacy for PC, but I kinda want to get it on PS4, but again, it's another, like, Shovel Knight thing where it's probably gonna be free. So, just wait for a little bit.
I'm glad I supported Shovel Knight though. Like, even if it does become free at some point, you know, I felt like it was a good product, so I'm kind of glad I paid for it. Gave him some money.
No, I agree. I mean, you know, it's like when I play, like, free-to-play games on my iPhone or something, I'll usually throw in a few bucks just to say, like, hey, I really enjoyed this, so here you go. But I think my thing more is that I'd rather play Shovel Knight on my TV, and since I don't have a Wii U, you know, that's where I'm gonna eventually have to play it. So if it is $14.99 or whatever, I'll probably go ahead and pick it up based on your recommendation and other people's recommendation. I just know I'm gonna be pissed off, like, 3 months down the road when it's free. You know, Patrick's already thought that.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Yeah, I hear you. Everybody's got a budget.
Yeah. I've got to say, listeners, like, this is our first attempt at, like, having our webcams on while we record so that we don't, like, talk over each other or anything. It's the first time that our connection has been stable enough. And true to his word, like, I saw a flash of sexy Patrick leg because he is wearing not pants. And so, yeah, we are true to the show title. Oh, and Angelo is too. So that's good. My laptop's on my lap, so I can't show off.
Add half on this video.
The rating almost went up there.
Fortunately, radio is such a visual medium.
Right.
But, what else have you been up to, Patrick? Any comics or?
Yeah, I got some new comics. I'm off this week, so I was reading a lot, yesterday and today. I read, some new stuff like Low #1. I read, the new Deadpool, like 32. Forgot to read 31. That's what happens when you go, like, once a month. I got 2 of them and didn't realize it until after I read the next one.
That's happened to me. Did you see that, test footage from the Deadpool movie that never happened?
Yeah, I did. I watched that. It was hard to tell. I didn't see the, high definition version they released like a day or 2 later, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah, it makes me sad because, like, my favorite part of that X-Men Origins Wolverine movie is the, like, 3 minutes where Ryan Reynolds is, you know, talking as Deadpool before he becomes Deadpool. It's like, oh man, he'd be so perfect for that role.
Yeah, he's just like Van Wilder.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he'd be typecast and everything, but that would be like his type. So it's sad that they made him Green Lantern because there's better people for that, I think.
Yeah. I think if they were gonna make him Green Lantern, he would have been better as Kyle and not Hal.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But, yeah, I was really happy because, you know, Daftman wrote a blog and he said that, like, listening to us got him back interested in comics. So that made me happy. I know it tickled you because, you know, you beat the comics drum pretty hard on the show.
Yeah. Well, as far as the comics are concerned, The Wake just ended and it was a pretty good finale. I just read that today. And it's, like all about, like, us crying and, like, forgetting, like, the real history behind stuff. And it's just way out there, but it's absurd in just the right ways that make you believe it because of, like, everything that came before. And it doesn't really seem out of the question in the end, even though it's like mermaids and stuff like that. A lot of the messages are really good, and I really enjoyed it, so the payoff was nice. But the comics you gotta collect, I think, are maybe Low #1. That could be a new ongoing that looks really good. And Amazing Spider-Man #4 has like a first appearance of this girl, Christy Moon. Have you guys heard about her?
No.
She's like apparently the other person who got bit at the same time as Peter Parker. Apparently this has been foreshadowed since like, one of the spiders was telling about, I forget, Madame Spider Web or something was telling about the scroll, or like whatever spider loom thing that's being written and like telling of the destiny and stuff like that, and that there's a second person who could take over if Peter's not up to it anymore. So like now she's like a new good hero or something like that, and her costume is like all her spinning a web on herself, so it looks really different. It's not like just a copy or something like that. It seems like it's a whole new direction, so that might be really fun.
I'm still waiting for them to introduce Miles Morales into the main Marvel universe, because he was the new Ultimate Spider-Man in that series, and I really loved him. But there was a crossover between Peter Parker came into the Ultimate Universe, and then when he got back, he tried to look up Miles Morales, and it was like this big shocking cliffhanger where he was like, "Oh my God!" And that's all you saw, and they haven't addressed it since then, as far as I know. So I would love to see Miles Morales like take over, or, you know, put on a costume in that universe. He's a really cool cat. There was something about. Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you real quick. Like, did you finish Zero Year? Did you read the whole thing?
No, I still have the finale, but I left that at the bottom of my comic pile. It'll be like, you know.
Yeah, leave it there.
Too. You didn't like the finale? I mean, I remember, like, I've got to the penultimate chapter where, like, Batman seems like he's trapped or whatever in this rainbow prism thing.
Yeah, I'll talk to you more, like, when you finish it, but I think my thing is that once I finished it, I thought, he could have written this in, like, 3 issues. Like, easy, like, or maybe even 2. It didn't have to be the big thing that it was. It would have been just fine.
It's so hard to make the Riddler believable.
Yeah, well, it's hard to make the Riddler not a joke, I guess, because, you know, in the regular series, he was just kind of like an also-ran. But see, me, like, my first, like, real introduction to the Riddler was the animated series, and animated series Riddler is badass. So, you know, I always thought the Riddler was really cool. Well, I take that back. My first experience was actually the 60s Batman show. But he was really cool too, so. But,
I'm gonna give away everything kind of way.
Yeah. But, I guess, I did want to talk to you. Well, Angelo, did you see Guardians of the Galaxy?
Oh yeah,
I've not seen it yet.
Okay.
I intend to. It's on my list of things to do. There's a raccoon that shoots rockets, so I'm there. But
well,
I know nothing about it.
We'll keep it spoiler free.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there'll be like little just things, but it's not really. It's just pertaining to characters that aren't going to mean anything until you see it anyway.
Uh-huh.
But Patrick, what did you think? Like overall, I think I saw what you thought, but I still wanted to say it out loud.
Oh yeah, I said on Facebook, I think that it's my favorite Marvel movie, and it's like it's only second to probably Batman as far as like the superhero movies I've liked the most so far out of either of the major two, Marvel and DC. I don't know why, but I think it's, you know, the medley of jokes and kind of being a pretend jerk to bad people. Well, like, he's like half a jerk to like bad people, so like even though he's a jerk, it's kind of funny because those people deserve it, or like should even be in that position. Like, I don't know. You feel for the guy even though he like abandons other people because he's been abandoned his whole life, and there's a lot of like drama below the surface of all this like humor and all these characters who it opens up for like, you know, the next decade or so. Like Gamora's amazing, and Groot and Rocket Raccoon, they could all have their own movies. Well, not Groot, but like Groot would be with Rocket.
Right.
And yeah, because he only says 4 words, but
I thought it was 2.
No, he says I am Groot. So.
Oh.
But
yeah.
Well, and I think they're actually doing a Guardians animated series, so that should be fun because they actually appeared in like one episode of that really excellent Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is still on Netflix, and everybody should check it out. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a really fun movie. And I think, to your point, Patrick, like, Star-Lord, like, the instant he pops up on screen, he's, like, instantly likable. Like, just right off the bat, like, without even saying a word, it's just like, okay, this guy's really cool. Like, I like this guy.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even though he's, like, the main character, it's secretly kind of like Gamora who's the main character, because she, like, pushes through the plot the whole time, and she makes, like, the big decisions. And she's also, like, really redeemable and, like, makes the entire crew come together in some way. So even though there's like Star-Lord there who's like really likable, I think even though he's kind of a jerk, like, although I did hear one person, like one friend of mine say that she didn't really like him because he's a jerk. I thought, I don't know, that was like mostly in jest that he was like that and just not taking the world seriously and kind of lighthearted about everything, even though he's gone through a lot of hardship. But other people might not feel that way.
Did this friend of yours, had she never seen Star Wars? Is she not familiar with Han Solo?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. But like also he has that great taste in music, or at least the funny taste in music, you know, it's like perfect like old school tunes that his mom gave him, and it's great to hear that mixed throughout the whole movie. Like it really brings you through.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think for me, don't get me wrong, I loved it. Like I thought it was really great. It falls a little low on my list of the Marvel movies, and the only reason is I'm harsher on it than some of the other Marvel movies, because there are three elements of the Marvel universe that I'm very well versed in. There's the X-Men, Iron Man, and the cosmic stuff. And the cosmic stuff is probably the nearest and dearest to my heart, because Silver Surfer was like the first like Marvel comic that I got really hardcore into. So, and he was my window into all that stuff. So, even though I don't know anything about the Guardians of the Galaxy, because I never read the old Guardians, which I always thought they looked cheesy anyway, like blue dude with a mohawk and big, like burly Jack Kirby style guy. I just thought they looked cheesy. But, I do know, like, the elements, you know, the stuff that they're dealing with, and I felt that it was, like, really, unfortunately, like, woefully undeveloped. Like, you know, Ronan the Accuser, you know, he's from the Kree. And I was like, yes, the Kree! Because that's the only alien species, the major alien species that they can use in the Marvel Universe, because the Skrulls belong to the Fantastic Four franchise, and, the Shi'ar, they belong to X-Men, so you're never gonna see them in these, you know, Avengers movies. So I was like, the Kree have to be like here, like really strong. And you know, the Kree are like a warrior race, they even have like Spartan helmets and stuff like that, they look really cool. And you only get to see two Kree. You get to see Ronan, and you get to see, like, one representative of the Kree. And I was like, why? You really need to explain to the people, like, why these guys are important. Same thing with the Nova Corps. I don't know much about Nova, but I know it's a big deal in the Marvel Universe, and I felt that they didn't really, like, explain why they're a big deal in the Marvel Universe. So I just felt that that could have been fleshed out a lot more. But the story was cool, like, the characters were cool. And also Thanos, who is my all-time favorite villain, beyond the Joker, you know, beyond Magneto, beyond anybody for me. It's Thanos. And he looked and sounded exactly like I pictured, or like, you know, in my mind's eye when I would like be reading the comics as a kid. So that made me very happy.
Yeah, I didn't really know too much about Thanos, and I like had heard like a decade ago that they were making this into the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, and it was like, why I had waited on reading it, because I was like, it'll just be my thing to see it or whatever. So I didn't really ever have those ideas of Thanos, except for like in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, where he's kind of like a big luggy type of character that I never really used. And so like he was a lot better than I thought he would be, and he's kind of cool in his reserved way in this movie. But as far as like the other themes go, I think that, you know, there's the chance for another Kree movie coming out, or like something starring another like lead character where they can delve more into it, but they really had to introduce all those heroes and go through like their characterizations and still have a like decently developed plot throughout, you know, the hour and a half or whatever. So there's so much to do in like only like a limited amount of time, which is why the Marvel Universe might even be better as like a TV show, like on a premium channel or something like that. But like when you only have an hour and a half, you gotta cut something.
That's true. And it was a fun little window into the cosmic part of the Marvel Universe, and the movie did like freaking phenomenal. So that means the sky's the limit for Marvel movies. Like they can pretty much train, I mean, I don't know. Like I was joking with John Golson, over the weekend, because maybe they'll do a Brute Force movie, which was this 4-issue limited series terrible comic in like the early 90s, back when everybody was really like conscious. It's about this scientist who, develops these suits of armor that he puts on animals, and it gives them the ability to talk and think. And the leader is a dolphin. It's really bad, guys, but it's like I could almost see them doing one of those, the way that things are going. And that'd be their opening day, because I just have to see what that is. So we need to get some more Angelo in here, though. Like,
why not?
What have you been doing?
So,
I have been getting ready for vacation. Because we're gonna be taking off soon for sunny Florida.
Yeah, I believe you're going to be missing next episode, so.
Yeah, and my wife is over there going, no, I've been getting ready for vacation. So, she's been getting me ready for vacation. I hate packing. I can't stand it. So I'm very glad that somebody who's better at it than I am. And they're taking care of it for me.
What games are you going to bring?
Well, that's the thing. We've got the plane ride. I was going to bring Virtue's Last Reward, because last time I went on vacation I brought 999, and those are great games to read, like, while you're traveling, because they're games that you read. So it's kind of like a book almost, which just kind of works better, I think, for traveling for some reason. It seems more comfortable than trying to play like something twitchy or actiony or something where you have to be very decisive.
I'm a definite big RPG guy on the planes, because...
Yeah, that would work too.
The more turn-based, the better.
Exactly. Yeah, no platformers. I tried to play something, and even on the train, just the jumping around and the screen moving, just wasn't working for me. So
the poo.
Yeah.
No, we're not taking the train. But I did do some shopping, and I picked up some games. I picked up the Sly Cooper collection was on sale on Amazon, like real cheap. So I picked that up because I haven't played a Sly Cooper game ever, and now I have 3 for like $20. So great in HD with PlayStation Move compatible. I don't even have a PlayStation Move, so I don't care. But anyway, I have those, and I also got a PlayStation 2 game. I got Grim Grimoire.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was the only Vanillaware game I think I was missing that came out in the U.S. Or that I could get anyway. I don't know if they did anything pre-PlayStation 2 that I might have missed out on that I just can't own because I don't have the platform or whatever, but it looked neat. So, and I'm a sucker for their art style, so I figured I'd pick it up and give it a shot. So there's that. And then, my birthday is also happening, but it's going to happen while we're on vacation. So my family decided they were going to throw a surprise party for me before we left, like way before my birthday even happened. And I got a couple of games. We talked about Bayonetta coming, so you already knew about that. But I got Doom 3 BFG edition.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've only played like 10 minutes of like the PC version, but I would like to play all of that game because I was a big Doom 1 and 2 fan.
Yeah, I was too. And it's not that expensive right now. And on the PC you had to, there was a key that was mapped to your flashlight that you had to switch on and off constantly. And you could either have your flashlight up or your gun. So that kind of built the intensity, but for the console, I guess that didn't really work for them. So they did it so that the flashlight is actually mounted on your gun. I guess it makes a little more sense.
It makes more sense, but I remembered hearing that like a lot of the tension in that game was like having to choose, be able to see or be able to shoot.
I used to be frustrated when I was like younger. I got that like my first year of college or whatever when it first had come out, and I had just made like a new computer. But I think it was not like happening with the slower momentum of that Doom because I had played the first one, and the first one, like, there's no cover, everything's wide out in the open, and you're just shooting everything. I actually heard that's what the next one's going to be like, so I'm really excited for that one.
The dodgeable projectiles, too. I don't know if there is any of that in Doom 3. I don't really remember. I played a little bit on the PC, but my PC wasn't having it at the time. But I do remember ages ago, there was a leak for that game that came out. And nobody had a PC that could even run it, but there was a leak of, I don't know how much of the game came out. And a friend of mine finally got it running on his rig, and it ran at like 2 frames per second. And all we could see is the first hallway with this light kind of swinging back and forth, and it was just like the shadows were amazing. I remember that was,
For Doom 4 or 3?
3.
Oh, okay.
Did I say 4?
No, I don't think I heard. I was just like, did some of it leak already? Like, holy crap.
No, there hasn't been any leaks. There's just been the video that they showed that apparently nobody had the common sense to record.
No, they weren't allowed to. They locked it down really bad at QuakeCon, and people should check out Travis's, amazing exclusive preview on the PixlBit site with screenshots that were done in MS Paint.
Yep.
My favorite one is the one where it's the, Marine, like, squeezing the head of evil, and it's actually labeled as such. Great stuff, and it got a lot of traffic, and I kind of wish we still had anonymous commenting on the site, because I can just imagine how angry people were when they clicked on that article.
Man.
But it actually did have some good information, because he was there and he saw it. It's just that he wasn't able to provide any actual in-game assets. But, the information's good.
He's really into that too. He's been there, like, how many times now? 3 or 4?
Yeah, he's gone a lot. Like, I kind of wanted to try to go this year because we're both in Texas and it'd be cool to meet him, but, I totally forgot about it because I think I could have gotten a press pass as well, but, and I don't think he's going to PAX. Oh, well. But, where are you going, Angelo? If you want to say. Or is it?
I'm going to Disney World.
Oh!
Take the family down to Disney World.
Oh.
We're going to go around there. And there's a whole bunch of Star Wars stuff there now.
Oh, yeah,
that's so cool. Because, dude, ever since they got the Star Wars franchise, like, the Disney Channel is like 50% Star Wars now. It's amazing. Like, they are running with this. Like, they've got 2 new shows already lined up that are Star Wars themed. They are all about Star Wars now. So this is either really cool or really bad. I'm not sure.
Man, I'm excited. I'm excited for new Star Wars.
I am too. I mean, the stuff that they showed so far looks like it's got some really good potential. I mean, we'll have to see how it actually rolls out, but
I haven't even seen any of the stuff. For me, it's more of just like Star Wars that wasn't written and directed by George Lucas excites me. Like, just to see what that is. I don't even know what that is, but it excites me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was ever anything wrong with his outlines for how the story is supposed to go, but he never fleshed them out right. That's been the whole thing.
And the dialogue in the prequels was pretty
painful.
Atrocious. Yeah.
He may have gotten a little lazy with, the fame and the fortune and everything.
No, what it was he had better editors before. I think actually his wife did his ex-wife did a lot of the editing for the first movie, and that's why it didn't suck. But now he's flying solo, and nobody can tell George Lucas what to do in his own workshop, so...
Was he flying Han Solo?
Oh!
Ooh.
Did it to yourself. Well, there were 2 things that I heard about the prequels, and I'll just go for the record. I like the prequels. Like, really? I know they have a lot of problems, but I still enjoy them. I love Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's actually one of my favorites. But, there were 2 things that I heard that really contributed to the problems of those movies. One was that he didn't have anybody telling him no. Like, period. And that's to your point, Angelo. It's like, he was just kind of doing his thing and nobody was around saying, this sounds not right. Like, this is kind of weird. Like, it doesn't really play well. But then the other thing, and this was what I heard from, John actually was telling me that the way that he directed the movies was, the cast members didn't have the full script. They only had their lines. So they didn't know what they were responding to or what their motivation was or even what scene had come before. So like, and the way he would direct was like, okay, here you go. And they're up against a green screen because like 95% of the movie is CG. And so that's why you end up with like Samuel L. Jackson looking bored as hell, even though he's super excited to be there because he's a huge Star Wars geek. But it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm just kind of sitting here in this chair and I'm reading these lines, but I don't know why.
Even if you watch the original, though, I don't think he's ever been a phenomenal director. Like, there's been moments where some of the lines came out forced in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, they just came out horribly, horribly forced. And that's just a bad director. You can just say, hey, you need to redo those lines, and here's how you need to say them, and here's where you need to be looking, and that's your job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, things sound and look terrible. So
I guess he's got to be banking on, like, the fact that people are going to have natural responses by not knowing what they're responding to, but, like, in the heat of the moment, you're just going to be thinking about getting your line right and probably not thinking about the other person and what they're saying.
Yeah. Or even just like like some of the stuff, it's like, midichlorian what? Like, what is this stuff? I mean, Alec Guinness, when he was filming Star Wars, just thought it was like the worst thing he'd ever done. Because sci-fi wasn't really a big thing in movies at the time, and, he was like a classically trained actor anyway, so he just thought it was atrocious with the jargon he had to talk about, and just imagine what, like, Liam Neeson and, the guy who played Obi-Wan. Sorry, dude. I like that actor a lot, but I remember his name right now. But, same thing, like...
Ewan McGregor?
Yes, that's the guy. Thank you.
Sure.
But no, I am excited for that. But see, like, when I went to Disney World in '94, like, they had the Star Tours thing.
Right. They redid it.
Oh, okay.
They redid it. I'm not sure when, but it's the new Star Tours. It's different now. I don't know if the trench run and everything is still in there, because I saw the original. But, I know from some stuff I've heard that, like, now you go to Hoth and stuff like that.
Nice.
So,
please let it be.
Seeing that.
Please let it be from the N64 Shadows of the Empire game.
We played that way too much.
Yeah, everybody did. It's the only good level in that game.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about Florida right now is that Diagon Alley, Harry Potter at Universal Studios. Are you going to get to go there, Angelo?
No, we're spending the whole time on the hotel we're staying at is actually in Disney World. So.
Man, I'm right there with you, Patrick. Like, I want to go to Diagon Alley so damn bad. Like, I want to have like an authentic butterbeer.
Yeah, I want to get my own wand.
Yeah. Because they do the whole thing too. Like, you actually go in and, like, the shopkeeper's like, well, the wand chooses the user, and, like, they do the whole, like, fitting thing and everything. It's really cool. Huh? We might be bigger Harry Potter fans than Angelo.
I haven't seen the last 2 or 3 movies yet. I forget where I ended up stopping, but it wasn't because I didn't want to see them. It was just because I haven't had the time to. I don't hate them. It's just like, oh yeah, those movies are cool. I like watching them, but I never felt like I need to own these movies and I need to watch them over and over and over.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just never really got sucked into that world, I guess.
I didn't really like the first few, but I think that they grew on me, and as I watched more of them, they got better, and maybe they had better directors and better vision for it as they went on too, but the books are where it's really at.
Yeah, especially by the time you get to, like, the 5th book, they really start assuming that you know stuff, about, from the book. And I remember, like, specifically, it was, Goblet of Fire, where I walked out of that theater. I hadn't read them yet. And I was like, I think I missed a lot of plot just now. And then sure enough, like, I started reading the books. It's like, okay, yeah, there's a lot more going on here than I knew. And, definitely by the last 2 movies, it's like, you guys know this stuff, right? Like, we don't need to explain it because you all read the books. And it's like, well, no, not everybody did.
Right. I did not, read the books. The last one we watched was, spoilers, the one where Dumbledore dies.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So I don't know how many more movies I have if it's, 2 or 3. I remember being like, oh, no, like that kind of thing, like that. They're good movies, they're great stories, it's just...
Yeah, you only have the final story, which is the 2-parter. So it's, the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, that's all you need to watch.
Okay. One more thing, I have to talk about this game. The other game we got was Mario Kart 8.
Oh, nice. That's the game that makes me kind of want a Wii U.
This is the game that should make you want a Wii U, because all we have done since we've got this is play 4-person multiplayer. And it's so much fun.
Yeah, but see, that I don't have, like, even a second person to play 2-player multiplayer. Well, yeah. You can give me your friend code.
There you go. And if I'm ever not playing 4-person multiplayer. But yeah, even, like, and we talked about this before, my wife isn't too into action games, and she loves this. So, Nintendo has that knack for just making games that everybody wants to play, regardless of how much experience they've had with the games, that sort of thing. The last one she played was the Super Nintendo one, and she said she didn't play it that much.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, it's been that long. And she got into it, and she's learning the tricks and things like that, and just is having a blast with it. And she's finishing. Like, she beats us. So, it's fun.
Plus it's, there's still that shiny newness of Nintendo characters in HD.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
This is one of the most beautiful games I've seen. And one of the things is, Nintendo isn't afraid to really use color. Like, everybody else wants to go for something more realistic. They do not care. And it's so obvious. Like, they're like, we want this to be bright. We want this to be this ridiculous shade of glowing blue. Like, you'll fly over the roads, and if it's the magnetic stuff, you know how sometimes you'll see, like, sections of the road that have, like, a little bit of sparkle to them? They've all got this, like, electric blue kind of glow to it. Everything is just beautiful. There's sections of the track that are magnetic, so you're going up walls, you're racing upside down.
Oh, that's like that F-Zero on, N64.
Yeah.
The N64 one.
My only complaint about it is battle mode is not good.
I never did battle mode back in the day.
I loved battle mode.
Oh yeah, I liked it.
But I loved, like, classic that my brother and I spent hours and hours and hours on the Super Nintendo doing battle mode. And, when I had the DS one was, maybe still is, I'm not sure, my favorite entry. And I could just kill anybody at the battle mode in that game. It was amazing. It was so much fun. But they had these perfect little tight arenas that you'd race around in, and you'd stalk each other, and you'd have to strategically, what am I doing here and there? And now, instead of having arenas that you're in, it's just a race course. Like, you're just racing, and racers are racing in opposite directions on this race course, and you're hoping to, like, zoom past somebody and hit them and take away one of their balloons. And that's not the same, and it's not nearly as good. So I'm kind of hoping that if they release a good battle DLC pack, I would probably buy it. But other than that, I just hope they do better on the next game, because this is not... It almost feels like they knew they had to get it out, and they could not wait another 6 months. They had to get out a system-selling game, so instead of doing that, they're like, well, let's just use the courses we already have. And we'll put battle mode in there.
You might be onto something there.
Pretty sure it happened. So, but but what they always do is they do 4 cups of new courses and then 4 cups of old courses. And man, it's so cool to see, like, what was it? Is it called Donut Plains? One of the ones from the very first one, the Super Nintendo game. Like, just in HD with, like, now they've got these bleachers with people in them, and one section of the road is vertical, it goes up and down. Just seeing it, like, fully in 3D, in HD is just really, really cool. And super nostalgic, so that's kind of fun. So I've been playing a lot of that. And Final Fantasy X, but Final Fantasy X has made me very angry, so I'm taking a wee little break from that.
Yeah, I'm taking a little break too. I'm kind of glad you're not, like, way ahead of me, because, it was after that, like, I talked about last episode, but that boss fight where I got one-shotted and I knew I had to go through all those cutscenes. I haven't really felt like I wanted to go back through all those cutscenes. But I also haven't really had a chance to play much. I'm trying to remember what I did play.
Yeah.
Crap, I know it was something new-ish. Nope. I spent one weekend just watching hella bad movies on Netflix, and I don't know why I did that. It was like one after another. Oh, that's what I want to talk about. It wasn't a video game, but it made me think about a video game that doesn't exist. I watched Johnny Mnemonic for the first time. And it was, I went down this really bad Netflix rabbit hole. I just started watching stuff that looked kind of interesting. I was in kind of a horror kick, so I watched, like, Devil, which was not directed by M. Night Shyamalan, but the concept was his. It was alright. I watched Insidious 2, which was also... it wasn't bad, but...
It was bad.
But I couldn't get over the terrible wallpaper in the house they were in, to the point where constantly, anytime they're walking through, I was just like, why would you put that in your house? Who would design that wallpaper? Like, it doesn't even match anything. And I don't even notice stuff like that most of the time, so that kind of tells you how engaged I was, in
also,
that movie.
Movie has some of the worst acting I've ever seen. Oh, it's so bad. The old lady is really bad. The medium or whatever she is.
Yeah.
She's so bad.
I saw far worse movies that weekend, though, so.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It may be bad, but it's no Troll 2.
I haven't seen Troll 2.
Well, see, but Troll, I haven't seen that either, but I know that that's at least like a so bad it's good type thing. I saw a lot of movies that weekend that were so bad or just bad.
Yeah.
contracted, which looked cool from like the box art, but it had like possibly the stupidest collection of characters I've ever seen since Cloverfield. Because Cloverfield is a movie where it's like everything that they do is the exact opposite of what a normal human being should do in that particular, or in any like stressful situation. And this one was kind of the same thing where it's like the whole time just like, go to the emergency room. Why are you trying to walk this off? Like, you've got blood coming out of both ends of you. Why do you think you're okay? But no, anyway, so this led me to watching Johnny Mnemonic for the first time. The reason was that I was interested in it because I thought it had some interesting concepts. I never saw it back in the day, but back when I had Netflix, the disc version, I had it on my queue for there. And so what they do is if you had stuff on your disc queue and you don't have the discs coming in anymore, but it becomes available for streaming, it just automatically gets added to your instant queue. So it just happened to be there, and I was like, it was a Sunday, it was like a midday, I didn't feel like doing anything else, I was like, I'll watch Johnny Mnemonic. Mm-hmm. That was 90 minutes of my life I'll never get back. It's really bad. Mm-hmm. It's like so bad in like a way that early 90s only early 90s movies can be bad.
Early 90s cyber, whatever that is.
Yeah, and it's like, this is like 4 years before Matrix, and like,
right.
I think Keanu Reeves was pretty darn good in The Matrix, but he was not good in this, and I blame, again, I think it's directing, it's like he was not given anything to work with, and then the director was crap, but you've also got really weird stuff in there, like, the fact that, like, Ice-T is, like, a big character in there, and this is like, when he was still mainly known for, like, Cop Killer. He wasn't an actor yet, so it's weird to have him in a movie like this.
And he's not really a great actor, I gotta be honest. Like,
well, no, he's not.
He's meh at best.
Yeah, and then you've got, like, Dolph Lundgren as, like, some, like, half cyborg preacher man / like, assassin. It is a weird movie, but I was thinking how cool it would be if they actually, like, took some of the elements of it and, like, worked them into a video game. Because I do think the idea of, like, using your brain as storage and, like, smuggling and stuff, like, could be really unique. Like, what if the game was actually designed around that? So let's say, well, I'm gonna load up my brain with, gun skills and hand-to-hand combat because I think this mission is gonna be really hairy. But I've only got this much space left for, like, mission parameters. So maybe, like, you can't bring everything that you have that that you want with you. Or you're like, oh, you know what? Like, I'm gonna be so badass at stealth, I'm not even gonna worry about combat. So I'm gonna take all of that out of my head, and I'm gonna load up on a bunch of, like, side quest stuff and, like, put that in there, and then just hope, to, like, the video game gods that I don't actually, like, alert anybody and have to, like, try to escape that situation because I'm gonna get killed.
That is, like, the part about the movie that I really like, though, like, the filling your brain up, because it gets off on, like, something that everybody really wants to do, and that's, like, learn quickly. But it reminded me of that one scene in Johnny Mnemonic, I think, where he, like, goes to Japan or whatever, and, like, he's gonna get shot, and it's kind of like a funny, campy kind of, like, action scene where you, like, see all the reverse bullet holes where it seems like people are shooting, but, like, it's actually, like, the explosives in the wall exploding and stuff like that.
Yeah, special effects were not good in that movie.
Yeah, it was a lot cheaper than just The Matrix, which is, you said, only 4 years later, and that's just, it's crazy to me, because that's just light years ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it just goes to show, like, how crazy that stuff became, because, 95, well, let's say, okay, they probably filmed it in, like, maybe 93, because it probably took them all to do, like, that CG stuff, but the CG looks so ancient, and then, come The Matrix, and, like, all that stuff looks so slick and so amazing, and then even then, like, you go watch The Matrix now, and it looks good, but it doesn't look as good as stuff now. So, yeah, it's crazy how far we've come, but I just kind of had to...
And they're similar movies, too, which is...
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, he doesn't know Kung Fu in that one.
Well, Mr. Anderson.
Oh man, that is one of the greatest movie villains of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Smith is so great, or Agent Smith.
Yeah,
love it. I am an unabashed fan of the Matrix movies. I love all three of them. The second one's my favorite. I'm not going to debate you on this point. That script is incredible.
Okay.
Patrick, you got to back me up on that. I'm sure you love the Architect.
Oh yeah, I like the architects and the idea of that, but the second movie pissed me off because of like the way it ended, and I didn't realize that would ever happen in a movie. I'd never had a to be continued before in a movie, and I saw it in the movie theater with like, I don't know, a friend and two girls. We were kind of like on a double date type thing, and it was like, man, I wanted some closure, and I wasn't getting any from anyone.
Well, I knew there was going to be a third Matrix movie, but I didn't know there was going to be a third Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So that one pulled the rug out from under me, where I'm like, this movie's almost over. What the hell's going on? Wait, they just freaking killed him. What? And then I realized, oh, there's another one of these. And I was happy there was going to be another one because I love those movies, but that initial like viewing in the theater, I was like, I feel a little gypped right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the Matrix movies just go in order. Like, but I love origin stories better than anything else. So that's probably why I think the first one's better than the second one, and the second one's better than the third one. But
it also had the most potential. Like you get to the end
I'm in
of that
the similar thing where it's like I do not. Yeah. I mean, I can't hate them. I can't hate any of them, but I definitely have a preference for which ones I like more.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and everybody does, but I think most people prefer the first one. I mean, I love the first one, don't get me wrong. It's just, I loved getting to see some of the realization of Neo's powers, and, you know, I love the Merovingian, and I love the architect. Like, my two favorite scenes in those movies are like the talkie bits with the Merovingian, and then the talkie bits with the architect, because I just think they're so great. Like, it's nice to see like an action movie try to do something approaching intelligent, you know, like most of the time you've just got like crazy one-liners, but I thought that they attempted to do something smart. They might not have, you know, fully succeeded, but I really dug it.
I actually probably like the Animatrix, the Second Renaissance or whatever, like more than the movies.
I can see that. I can see you really like
Animatrix is pretty good.
Yeah, especially that one though, because it's like delving into like people as data and like trying to get their memories by going into this collection of data that the architect stores it in and all that kind of stuff. And it was just like, wow, I'm one of those little data pieces out of the like 100 million in that processor or whatever. And like I remember like this one part where you like see them dive into all the data, and it's just like this like golden pyramid. It almost looks like you like diving into and diving out of, and it's just like that could totally be what it's like. I don't know. Nothing really opened up my mind like those movies probably have as far as movies go.
Human Instrumentality Project.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, we will open your minds to a bunch of, community topics in our next section.
Let your body rock, let your body move, let your body jump to the killer groove. Let your body rock, let your body move, let your body jump to the killer groove. Let your body rock, let your body jump to the killer groove. Let your body move to the killer groove. It's the way you move, it's the way you move to the killer that beat is it's the way you move, it's the way you move to the killer that beat is
That was a really bad segue.
That was out of nowhere.
They can't all be winners, guys.
No.
I mean, you win points for like most surprising.
Right? Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. All right, and we're back, and we are loaded with a bunch of fun and interesting topics that were brought to us by you, the PixlBit users and Nerds Without Pants listeners. We've got some house cleaning ones, and by that I mean just some ones that we didn't get a chance to get to from the last time that we did this. So I thought we would start with that. So we've actually got like some duplicate entries because, you know, there were some from last time and what have you. But I thought we'd start with, it's kind of a simple one, but from Super Step, and again, this was one he submitted for the previous community episodes, but he says, Power Rangers movie is apparently in the works. I remember the Super Nintendo games being really good. Thoughts?
You guys have them.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I realize I'm completely cognizant of the fact that in 1993 I was about 7 years too old for Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't stop me from taping the first episode on Fox Kids and then watching said episode and then pausing for about a minute and a half to collect my jaw from the ground and then immediately rewind it and watch it again because I thought it was the most incredible thing. I was like, it's got robots, it's got giant monsters, it's got this, like, hot gymnast chick with a great ass. Like, how could you go wrong with this show? It's so good. And I was hooked. Like, I was a big Power Rangers fan, even though, again, I was way too old for it. Not too happy with the Super Nintendo games.
I was in like 5th grade when those came out, I thought.
So you're perfect.
Yeah, it was around the same time as Pokemon, though, and I eventually got way more into Pokemon. So I probably stuck with it for like a season. I stuck with it right up until the first movie. That was like the last thing I saw. And I don't know why, but like, it was good until then. I just never got into like the cult following. I think it might have been because I got ridiculed for saying that my favorite Power Ranger was the Pink Ranger. Even when I was that young, like,
I mean,
everyone knew.
I mean, those tights. Those tights, though. No, but I remember, I had this distinct memory. I actually rented the Super Nintendo, like the action game, the side-scrolling action game. And I remember thinking, why is this game so bad? Like, you could make such an awesome Power Rangers game, and I didn't understand why the game just was not good. And I think it was because, you gotta remember, like, there was a time when licensed games, especially on the NES days, they were pretty darn good. I think...
Yeah, they were hit or miss.
Well, I mean,
I'm gonna point to Silver Surfer again.
Okay, but then I'll counter with DuckTales and Chippendale's Rescue Ranger.
I'll counter with the first Ninja Turtles game.
Not
that arguable.
bad.
I kind of liked it. I kind of liked the first one, but a lot of people hate that game.
Yeah. What, Patrick?
I said then we'll double back with Bucky O'Hare. I like that game.
Yeah, there's some pretty good ones. The Sunsoft Batman games, like, both of them were great.
Those were pretty freaking good. Yeah.
And there were some decent ones on Super Nintendo, but this might have been the first one where I was like, I rented it and expecting to, be impressed and then was just like not having it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that Power Rangers is old enough now to where as long as they don't Michael Bayify it up, like I think they can do a pretty kick-ass movie out of it. And hopefully there'll be a really great game that comes out of it too, because, I'm saying this as a guy who really loves Pacific Rim and really loves Godzilla. And, I would really dig a Power Rangers movie, at least a Pacific Rim quality. Maybe not Godzilla quality, but Pacific Rim for sure.
Yeah. I don't know, do you want it that quality though? Like, isn't part of the charm of Power Rangers the sort of cheesiness kind of it, like being live action?
Yes, but I feel that like as the show went on, as they started to like do like more of their original footage and they stopped doing like the stock footage from the original Japanese shows, that the quality got better. And I thought the first movie was pretty darn good. Except for the bad guy, like I thought, Mr. Ooze or whatever was kind of crappy. But, I thought that movie was good and I thought the action was cool and, I think as long as you don't skimp on the martial arts part of it, because, as the show went on, like they had to make it less and less violent for the kids because they were trying to emulate the Power Rangers and they started doing dumber and dumber stuff. If you can keep that looking pretty cool, just give me, just give me like one really nice, like robot versus monster fight at the very end. I'm good.
I don't know. I missed that whole thing. When did the first one come out again? The first episode?
93.
Yeah, I was 13, so.
So was I.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I think you and I were in different places though. I was like, I'm done with kid stuff. I'm a teenager now. I'm not watching this. I was a little more of the actively trying to avoid things like that, so.
Yeah, I was still playing with toys.
I was too. That's the funny thing. Is there are some things I was like, I'm not doing, and then there's other things where I'm like, I just don't want to do this. Racing my Hot Wheels down, whatever, that kind of stuff.
That's like even younger than I thought. I was only in like kindergarten then. 93, I was only 6 years old.
That's what I was thinking, because, yeah, that makes more sense. So, I mean, you were like the perfect demographic for it, for sure.
I guess so.
Yeah, you were, and JD also, I know JD, from the site, he's a big Power Rangers fan, so that was like the first thing I think that he got really super into, where that for him, that was his Transformers, that was the thing for me, like the very first thing that I glommed onto as a kid.
Yeah, it was like, I was Beast Wars still, but I don't know, I guess I always didn't really consider Power Rangers because one of my friends who was just like a year older, like, scoffed it off or whatever. Like, soon after I was conscious of, like, making choices to watch things and stuff like that, so it's like, oh, he's a baseball player and he's not watching it. If I want to be a baseball player, I'm not going to watch it either, or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
if you want to be one of the cool kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like, I was, like, almost too old or something, so that's why I was like, maybe I was around 5th grade, but that was way younger.
Yeah. No, I was a geek even before I knew what a geek was. Like, I remember being in middle school and stuff and actively, and it wasn't like because like, I was trying to be like some sort of like rebel or anything, but I remember like seeing like the kids were the exact same things at school all the time to be cool and with it and stuff, and I was like, I don't want to be part of that. I don't need to wear like a really massively large t-shirt that has Taz and Bugs Bunny dressed up like gangsters. I'll just pass on that. But, I think we'll also pass on to the next question, which is, from Daft Man, who we mentioned earlier. Hopefully he's reading some good Batman comics. He has a good one. Do you prefer Contra or Metal Slug, and why?
Ooh. That's a tough choice, man. I mean, they're so... My experience with Contra and my experience with Metal Slug have been two different things, because I didn't own a Neo Geo. I don't think anybody I know was rich enough to have a Neo Geo. So, one was what you played at home, the other was what you played in the arcades,
That's
so
a valid point.
Yeah, they almost were just like two different worlds. And also, Contra, they were twitch shooters, and I enjoyed both of them quite a bit. But Contra was a little more, like, dude, Metal Slug was bloody. It was,
humorous,
right, but it was, it also, like, it had that adult edge to it, and I guess Contra could be kind of like that too, but it wasn't as graphic, I guess?
Man, I will refer you to the last level of Contra 1 for NES.
Oh yeah, okay, there's that. If you could get there, without using the cheat code.
Oh, well, okay.
But yes.
I beat those games on, like, emulation when you could pause it at whatever point you wanted.
Save states. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I feel like I could do it. Like, I feel if I gave myself, like, a good afternoon, I think I could do it now. But as a kid... You think? Maybe.
Yeah. You gotta memorize those levels.
I feel like they're still in my head. Honestly, like, I'm not even kidding, like, I feel like they're still there. Like, it wouldn't take long to get everything down again.
And your reflexes are better. I think you're used to, like, going on faster paces for, like, first-person shooters now and stuff like that, so you might be able to have a better recall or reaction time or something like that nowadays.
I'm also a lot more patient, too, so, like, I wouldn't be, like, running headlong into bullets like I did a lot as a kid, because there was a lot of that.
Right. There's a lot of being patient, but there's a lot of, like, respawns, and there's a lot of, there's just those NES things that make it. Like, here's the thing. I thought the same thing when I was playing Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox, and they had the NES games in there that you could unlock.
Yeah, I don't think I could do those.
I'm kind of torn as to which one I like more, because I had the NES system and played Contra and didn't play much Metal Slug when I was growing up, but, like, later on, Metal Slug spawned a couple of games I think that I like more than either of those, which are, like, Gunstar Heroes and Mercenary Kings, just because of the co-op aspect of them both. So it might be Metal Slug just because of what comes from that. Like, the sprites are obviously really influenced by Metal Slug. Even the gameplay a little bit. Like, the guns have the same kind of pixels for their bullets. And
those Neo Geo games are freaking gorgeous too. They really are.
Yeah.
Like, such nice sprite art, and everything moved fast, and everything felt so intense when you were playing it. And Contra felt slower and more deliberate. just in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not really comparing apples and oranges, but they're they play differently enough to be like, you know, it's like comparing, well, it's even more desperate than, or different than saying Rock Band and Guitar Hero, you know, but like, it's kind of in that ballpark where they're similar games, but.
I can definitely get behind that. I mean, for me, it's Contra. Like, just straight up. I mean, I enjoy Metal Slug, but I didn't play much of it. Again, Angela, I think because it was an arcade thing. I rarely found Metal Slug in the arcade, like when I was a big arcade rat. I tended to find it, later on when I wasn't really going as much. Or, you know, we actually did have a customer at our store who was a huge Neo Geo guy. I mean, he had the carts and everything, and he would bring in his system a lot of times, and so I would play on his. But I think for me, like, where I played a lot of Metal Slug was on the Neo Geo Pocket. So I played the hell out of that one, and I liked it a lot, but there's something about Contra, man. Like, there's something about, specifically Contra 1 and Contra 3. I'm not too big of a Super C fan. And I never played Contra 4, and, you know, some of the ones after, you know, like, the ones on the PlayStation are bad. Contra on the PlayStation, well, the first one was terrible. Mm-hmm. I think the second one was better, but not
honestly,
really.
There was one or two on the PlayStation 2 that were kind of good.
Yeah, especially the first one, Contra, Neo Contra, something like that. That Contra Neo, that one was really good. Really tough though. But I think for me, it's just the fond memories that I have of playing it over and over and over because of the 30-man code. We would just like beat that game and then start over and just beat the game and start over, like, just for an entire day. But also,
got it, yeah.
Yeah, but also that music, man. Like,
some great chiptunes.
I love some, you know, NES and Super Nintendo era Konami music. And yeah. So. Yeah,
I lean toward Contra too. I don't know if it's nostalgia, but if you're asking me to pick my favorite, it's gonna be Contra because that's what I played most of, you know? So.
Yeah, I mean, I used to draw Contra scenes when I couldn't play Contra. So.
And as a kid, I thought the story was cool too. I know that's such a cheesy thing to say now, but it's like, you think you're chasing down this army and it turns out they're aliens, you know? So. Oh, well, it is, yeah.
Well, and maybe we can bring it up here, but, Angelo, you and I discovered, well, I found it and then I passed it off to you because I just felt like it was something you should have known about. But, did you want to talk a little bit about the Keiji Inafune game that we found?
Yeah, it's called Azure Striker Gunvolt. And
3DS?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's 3DS. I think they're planning on releasing it on 3DS, which means that maybe they'll put it on Wii U too. I don't know, but right now it's looking like it's just 3DS. But if Mighty Number 9 is the new Mega Man, this is the new Zero. So, it looks like it's that type of a game, and it looks really cool. I really want to play it. I don't know how much else I can really say about it. Like, there's videos of it out there, and it looks, again, as opposed to like the Mega Man style, where it looks like it's more level based, where you're progressing through a story, and I don't know what else to say. It's great. It's very Inafune, but it's that edgier style that you would see in the Zero games.
Is it just out in Japan? Or?
It's actually not out at all yet, but
right.
It's coming to Japan first, but they are localizing it. It is coming out here.
It's coming out here too.
And it's funny, Angela, that you say Zero, because actually what I got from it was if Capcom and Treasure had ever had a baby, this would be it. Because it has a lot of Capcom feel to it, but I also get a lot of Treasure from it, specifically Gunstar Heroes, Patrick. But also like a little bit of like just the crazy over-the-top sprite stuff that they would do, you know, in like Race Storm? You know, like, yeah. You know, like some of their like Dreamcast and Saturn shooters and stuff like that. And that's actually, you know, going back to like how I was talking about, like, you know, I'm kind of meh on these indie, like 16 and 8-bit inspired games. I think it's because when I see something like, you know, this, Gunvolt, it looks like the evolution of those games. It looks like something that is like, whoa, you could not have done this 15 or 20 years ago. This is amazing. Like, it's filling the screen with craziness. And the animation is nice, like the sprite art is great, and it's just got that certain oomph that I expect from Capcom. And I mean, it's not a Capcom game, but Inafune's doing it, so it feels like one.
Right.
So keep an eye out for that one, people. Because I don't know if it's coming out on cartridge or not. So
I believe it said digital only. I could be wrong. Or digital for now, I guess.
Right.
I imagine if it does well and they end up doing sequels and stuff, we might see cartridge-based stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, because I feel like I would get down on a special edition cartridge.
But unlike Mighty Number 9, this has a publisher on board. This is done without crowdfunding and all that stuff. And it's on its way. It's solid, you know. It's coming out.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about Mighty Number 9 too. When I see the videos that they had of that, I feel like, it's a little more reserved than Gunvolt, but I also feel like it's progressing. I don't feel like it's regressing. I feel like it's taking advantage of the stuff that you can do on a new console. So, and we'll see how that turns out too. So
we will if it ever gets finished.
It sounds like the one that wouldn't be coming and localized, but I guess it's the one that is.
Yeah, like I don't know, and it's weird to me that because they have asked for more money for Mighty Number 9, so
no, not for the game, for voice acting and for an anime.
I feel like that's going to get put into the game. I think it's their way of asking for more money, but not saying they need more money. We'll see. And I guess talking about like stuff from the past, we'll address one from Alex C25. It says, I also wouldn't mind if we talk about the recent state of Sonic. And I want to try to be.
Really want to do that?
I want to try to be nice.
Okay.
Patrick, you like Sonic?
Yeah, I love him.
Like, do you still love him? Like,
no.
Oh.
Wow.
I love who he was, not who he is.
Any interest in Sonic Boom, the new TV show? That thing looks weird.
I mean, I already named a hedgehog that I had Sonic Boom, so I rest in peace. I'm done with it.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, my hedgehog died. It's a sore subject, Julian.
Sorry, man. I didn't know it was going to get like serious.
No, it's okay. Did you know that I had a party for my hedgehog in college? It was like supposedly the party of the year because it was like an all white party, like not a morning party. Because like another girl dropped the hedgehog and like it broke all the bones in its body or something like that.
Hmm.
And I gave it an injection like at a vet, brought it back home, and then the other hedgehog like tried to bite off the head of the one hedgehog when it was dying. Yeah, so it was crazy, but like then I was like, I have to have some sort of a party or something. This guy was tortured, you know, this hedgehog. Sonic Boom he was a warrior. And so we had one, and it was like we made blacklight posters in the shape of like hedgehogs and stuff like that. Oh, it was crazy. Everyone was on really, really tough stuff.
I kind of feel like we need to do that for Sonic the Hedgehog because
yeah,
I feel that Sega has broken all the bones in his body, and they need to, you know, I don't know, like those games.
Way darker than I thought it was going to go.
It is what it is.
It is.
I mean, they've made some good games. Don't get me wrong. There's been some ones recently that sounded pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go out and say it. Like, I was never a big Sonic fan, and we'll get into it a little bit later because someone asked about the console wars. But I played Sonic, and I played Sonic 2, and I thought they were fine. But I got bored with them pretty darn quick, and they were never games that I felt like I could go back to over and over again, like the Mario games. And I feel that has, like, borne out. Like, I don't know if, like, the people who are still really hardcore Sonic fans honestly go back to the old games and have as much fun with them as I do when I go back and play Super Mario World or Mario 3 or Mario 2. I don't know. Like, I think, like Esteban, who used to work for the site, was a huge dyed-in-the-wool Sonic fan, and sometimes, like, hearing him talk, like, I wonder if he was just, like, lying to himself.
Yeah, I used to like him a lot more, and I have him on that Sega Genesis collection for PS3. And when I played it, I only went back like one time to them because I felt like it was a little jaunty. Like I would be like charging up or whatever, and I'd be going really fast, and all of a sudden I'd hit like a wall and just like stop there. So it would be like stopping all the time. It was like really staccato versus the Mario games, which you can like flow back and forth because it's not too fast. When I was younger, I thought like it would be a better thing. My mom asked me one time, which one do you think is going to last longer? Do you think it's going to be Mario or do you think it's going to be Sonic? Like, who do you like more and why? Like, I think she was asking, like, which system do you want for Christmas more? But I said Sonic because I thought he would last longer, you know?
Well, he had that 90s tude.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know, like, a big problem is that they've been trying to, like, you know, figure out how to do Sonic in 3D, like, ever since the Dreamcast days, and, you know, I don't think they've ever really gotten the formula quite right, but I've always had this idea, and it's gonna sound weird, but if you ever go and play the, Naruto Rise of the Ninja for Xbox 360 by Ubisoft, it takes a long time to get to it. Maybe you just want to go look at some YouTube videos, but you gain the ability to, run really quickly, and the controls for it were spot on perfect. It was so easy to maneuver. It was so easy to, like, turn corners at the drop of a hat, like, stop the direction you're going and immediately start running backwards. It was so good, and every time that I would, like, run around in that mode, I was just like, this is how you make Sonic in 3D. It's so amazing. And you should definitely try to check it out, or, you know, if you have the game, like, fire it up and go try it out. But man, like, that's what you gotta do. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if it fixes the problem, but I also know that Sega doesn't really care because those games still make a ton of money because kids love them. So, you know, I understand it has its fans. Like, there's been a couple times when there were some games that seemed good enough that I would want to try them, like Sonic Colors.
Yeah, I was thinking Sonic Colors. I was like, what happened with that? I thought that was supposed to be good at some point. Did it ever come out and do well? Or?
It did, yeah. I mean, they've all done well, but I think that one actually did well critically as well. And also the GBA games I know were really well made and really popular. I tried out a couple of those at the store, but, you know, I had other stuff that I was more into, but.
Yeah, most recently I've only played like Sonic and Mario at the Olympics or at the Winter Olympics, and those stink. But
yeah,
Those are bad.
well, I didn't like them. I'm sorry if you had to play them, Angelo.
They're not good. Sometimes your children will want games that you know are bad, and you'll buy them for them.
But it's
even
up
though
to
you know better.
It's up to you to teach them, Angelo. Teach them what's good.
Well, they have to learn the hard way sometimes.
I guess that's true. We played some pretty crappy games that we thought we were fooling ourselves about.
Silver Surfer.
I never fooled myself about that one. I never liked that game.
Yeah. But I think Sonic is, I think the old games are alright. I don't, what I find is I'll fire off now. I have the Sonic Ultimate Genesis collection, but I'll only want to play the first few levels.
Right.
Because those are the levels I can just tear to shreds. You know? And then once the game starts to get where you can't just hold right and blitz through the whole level and look awesome doing it, then it's not as fun anymore, I guess. I also didn't own a Sega. I was a Super Nintendo kid. My cousin had a Sega, so a Genesis, so I'd go over to his house and play Sonic over there. So I'm not inexperienced with it, but I have nowhere near the experience that I do with like the Mario games and stuff.
Also, just gonna put this out there. Never liked the soundtrack for those games. I was not a fan of the Sonic.
I would say they're hit and miss. I would say that the Genesis sound chip, especially if you're going to hold it up against the Super Nintendo, has a completely different set of strengths. Namely, its bass is amazing. But that's about the rest of it. Like, once it gets to highs, they sound tinny. It's that FM synth chip that it has, you know?
Right.
Everything sounds kind of metallic. And you can make it work. I would say at least 50% of the music in most of the Sonic games is pretty good. If not great. But there's also some where I'm like, I'm not really feeling this track. So, you know. it is what it is. And I think, part of it too is you almost have to acquire a taste for that sound.
Yeah.
Especially now going back to it.
Yeah. And there were definitely some carts that did it better than others.
Absolutely. That was one of those things where if you did not know how to program for that chip, you were going to pay the price for it, and your music was going to be terrible.
Yeah.
It was merciless. Whereas the Super Nintendo couldn't really do punchy sounds. It had kind of a muted quality to it. Everything sounded really, really reserved. And I think that's just because it was mostly sampling. But I don't know. We can get to that when we get to the console wars, I guess.
Yeah, but hey, we were fair.
We're already there.
We didn't.
I'll just keep.
No. I'm just saying. No, about Sonic. We didn't tear him a new one. So
yeah, I just don't think he's had too much luck lately. By the way, Sonic Adventure, don't ever go back and play that. If you have good memories of the Sonic Adventure games, leave them in your head.
I have good memories of that level with the whale in Sonic Adventure 1, and that's it.
Yeah, I got it as a bundle on the PS3 with Jet Set Radio or something like that, and I even played the second one for a little bit, and that's so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of that.
I mean, I love what they wanted to do with that, but man. It's painful to play now.
They could remake that one in a better way, the way they would intend it, and it could work out awesome. But they just made it an on rails kind of thing, like it wants to be.
Yeah, there was that one. Well, no, I'm just going to cut that. We talked about Sonic.
Yeah.
All right, and then this next one from Michael 117. It's actually not so much of a topic, but we'll just throw it out there for listeners also. It's actually directed at you directly, Angelo.
Okay.
And Michael 117 asks, have you seen the movie The Awakening with Rebecca Hall? It's a British ghost movie that I think you and Mrs. Grant might like. It's a tale set in 1921 England about a woman who travels the country debunking supernatural hoaxes and publishing reports on the intent of exposing frauds. The story begins when the author goes to a boys' boarding school to investigate sightings of a ghost child. And I'm sure it devolves from there.
They always do.
Yeah.
And they always do things that nobody in their right mind would do, but I guess it makes more sense if she's there to prove that it's wrong versus the person who's, there's a murder in my house, let me run in the basement where I can't get out, So.
Oh yeah, I was watching the new Ninja Turtles animated series and they were making fun of that. I think it was Raphael or something was oh sure, we gotta split up, which is the first thing you don't do in a horror movie, but then you give me Mikey, so I mean I know I'm gonna die.
I gotta check that show out.
We saw an old horror movie. I should have mentioned this during Consumption Junction, but I forgot about it. And it's the one that takes place in New York with the haunted house. It's a really famous one too, and I can't think of the name right now. Huh?
Yeah,
Amity Horror, that one.
Mm-hmm.
The original or the remake?
The original.
Okay. I've only seen the one with Ryan Reynolds, and it was...
Yeah. And they do that same thing where it's okay, every instinct in you would tell you to do this, but why are you doing that?
Yeah. That's how I felt about Contracted. And then I also watched John Dies at the End, which I don't even know what that is. Patrick, watch John Dies at the End. I think you'll love it.
John dies at the end?
Yeah.
Does John die at the end?
No!
That sounds like the movie we need to talk about, Kevin.
I don't know what the hell I watched. I know it's really popular. It's a big cult hit. I honestly, I can't even tell you what it's about, but I do, now that I think about it, I think it's right up Patrick's alley.
Well, I mean, some of the best kind of movies, like the movie Slacker that Richard Linklater made, that has nothing it's really about, or, Waking Life. It's just kind of a bunch of people.
This one is sci-fi craziness, but I don't know.
I'll probably like it.
But to answer Michael 117's question, I believe none of us have seen The Awakening, so I'll have to check that out.
I just wrote it down so I can maybe recommend it.
Excellent.
But yeah, we do like our scary movies, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll get in. Well, let's see. Yeah, I guess now's a good time to get into. We've got a couple scary things. We can just keep the scary train rolling.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. So NSonic79 says, There's a new Fatal Frame coming out on the Wii U soon, but still no love from Nintendo about releasing it. They allowed Zombie U to be released on the Wii U, so why not a Fatal Frame game that lets us use the gamepad as the camera obscura? Angelo, I know you had expressed some excitement about this before the show.
I did, because like I just said, I like scary stuff. I'm kind of hoping Doom 3 will be scary, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to play it. And it's really cool because my wife has begun to appreciate tension in games. And of all things, it was Dark Souls, where I was playing Dark Souls, and there's a part where you're like underneath the whole city in this weird sewer section, and there's these things sneaking around, and you don't know where they're going to come at you from, but you can hear them scuffling around in the background. She's like, this game is scary. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty intense. It has moments where it can get pretty intense, so I'm hoping that'll be the case with this. And Fatal Frame sounds even better because there's no weapons. You know, from my understanding, you're armed with a special camera, and that's about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 'Cause you haven't played any of them, so yeah. I think.
No, I haven't. I haven't played a single one.
I think if that's the case, and it does get released over here, you're in for a treat. Because
yeah.
I only played the first game, and I didn't finish it, but and part of it was because I was a little bit too scared.
Oh, really?
To keep going, because it was one of those things where they were very good at showing you things in the corner of the screen, and then when you would turn around, there wasn't anything there.
Nice.
And then, of course, the fact that, like, you only see the enemies when you bring up your camera, and the mechanic, it's like one of those Silent Hill things where it's like, you don't want to do this, but you have to, and they know that, because the closer they get to the viewfinder, the more damage you do. So you're letting yourself get more and more terrified in order to, attack the enemies better. Because you could try to snap off a whole bunch of shots from far away, but it's not going to do much. So there's definitely that element to it. And I think it would be great on the Wii U. To answer Sonic's question, like, I honestly believe that Nintendo needs to be publishing these games themselves. And I think it needs to be just like, if anybody's, bringing out a game in Japan, it's a third party, Nintendo needs to go ahead and release that, because let's say Fatal Frame for the Wii U comes out in the United States and it sells like 50,000 copies. That's nothing. That's a failure. But let's say 10,000 of those copies were brand new Wii owners. Like there's probably 10,000 people out there who would buy a Wii U for a new Fatal Frame, right? So let's say Bayonetta 2, sells 200,000 copies. Let's say 75,000 of those people bought a Wii U to play Bayonetta 2. That builds up over time. And eventually you have a pretty good user base, which is what the Wii U desperately needs.
Right.
Yeah, but are those people just gonna have like second consoles and they're gonna just use it for like the first party Nintendo games and throw it away for like the PS4 in terms of like all the third party games? Because that's what I would do.
Well, it doesn't really matter to Nintendo's bankroll, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what would happen. But I mean, that means that Nintendo's going to sell more of those first party games, and it would really suck if like we didn't get that Wii U Zelda, or we didn't get that Wii U Mario 64 style Mario game, because Nintendo was like, oh, we're not going to make any money off of this. You know what I mean? Like that could happen. I don't think it would.
Yeah.
But, if they don't budget well, or if they have a tougher time making HD games than they anticipated, that could happen. So they need a wider, as wide a user base as they can get.
I think that we got a really good shot of getting this localized, because right now, like you're saying, they need games on this system.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean,
and there wouldn't be anything else like it on other systems.
Right. And they're already showing that they're willing to take chances. I mean, I don't think this Hyrule Warriors thing that they're coming out with, this is not very Nintendo-like. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're definitely willing to take chances right now in order to sell systems, which is cool.
Yeah.
So
and I think it's a little bit genius. Like, I think that game's going to do way better than like some of the cynics are saying.
I'm buying it.
Yeah.
I'm buying it. It looks great. It looks like a lot of fun.
Patrick, I know you're buying it.
Well, I mean, I don't have a Wii U and stuff, so I mean.
Oh, that's right.
I'm not gonna get it yet, at least. But my roommate might buy a Wii U just for Brawl or Super Smash Brothers, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's that, but I just heard we could just play as Ganon and some other enemies and stuff, so I was like, that's also not like Nintendo because they usually only let you play with a hero.
Yeah.
There's a lot of playable characters in it. There's even ones that they let the designers make up, I think, one or two of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool.
That is cool. Yeah, so I am pretty hopeful that game's going to get, brought out here eventually. The only thing that would keep me from saying what with 100% surety is the fact that Zombie U did really bad. Like, sales-wise.
Zombie U was also...
It was a launch game, too.
It was a little broken, too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
it had some issues.
I heard really good things about it, though. It would definitely be one of the first games I would buy if I bought a Wii U, because it really interested me. But, yeah, I mean, I know it's launch game problems and stuff like that, but... And maybe that was part of the problem, is that there just weren't enough people buying the Wii U at launch to pick it up, and now that there's more people buying the Wii U, they've just forgotten about it. One thing that I will never forget is how I felt when I played the Resident Evil remake on the GameCube, which apparently was 12 years ago. Holy crap. But Michael117 wants to know our thoughts on the Resident Evil remake, which... Was that just announced today?
Yeah.
Well, I'm recording this anyway.
First I've heard of it was today, so
very recently. I think maybe yesterday or like night or something.
Okay. Yeah, so if you haven't heard, I mean, if you're listening to this, I'm sure you've heard it by now, but they are doing an HD remaster of the GameCube remake of Resident Evil 1, which I have always said is the best way to experience the first Resident Evil game. I think and also the best way to remake a game. Like, if you ever want to remake a game, go back and look at what Capcom did with the Resident Evil remake. Cause it's phenomenal. And, I'm very excited to be able to, I mean, I still have my GameCube, I still have my copy of the game, so I can I even have an import version of it. So I can go back to it anytime that I want, but, it's kind of nice to have shiny new HD graphics.
Trophies.
Oh, that too. Yeah. I like trophies. And, not the remake, but like Resident Evil 1, I mean, I've got that game like mapped out on the back of my hand. Like I can almost play that thing with my eyes closed.
Yeah, the remake is like definitely my favorite horror game that I've ever played. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like Silent Hill and other stuff better, but for me that was just like the quintessential one. It really had all the tropes that I wanted, and it got me like, I don't know, tense in the right places, but it wasn't too scary.
Had you played the original Resident Evil before the remake, or was that your first experience?
I played like a little bit of 2, like for the N64, so.
Okay, cause it was so great on like multiple levels, because for someone like me, who, like I said, I played Resident Evil 1 like so many times. It's right up there with Final Fantasy 4 for most times that I've purchased a video game. But, for someone like me who knew that game so well, and then for Capcom to make it just as scary as the first time that I played it, not only with new stuff, but just by, playing with my expectations of what I was, what I thought that I knew was going to happen right around the corner, and then like something else would happen or nothing would happen. Like I thought that was so cool, but also just the idea of, certain zombies where, if you didn't burn the bodies, like they were going to come back as Crimson Heads, and those were super terrifying. But you also didn't have, like, the ability to burn all the bodies. So at some point there were just going to be some Crimson Heads that you'd have to deal with. And that was just, so tense, But you have some reservations, Angelo.
I do. I don't know if it's going to sell as well as they think it's going to. That's what I'm worried about. Also, they said they're going to rework a lot of the stuff. One of the things that they said was the tank controls are going to be optional. You guys know what I mean when I say the tank controls, right?
Oh, I did want to comment on that because I think putting full analog controls into that is vulgar.
Well, not only that, but they're also going to, they said, change the way the camera works so that it's a little more panny, a little more follow you type of thing. So it doesn't just snap from one position to another, which makes me think they're doing a lot of work on this game, which makes me nervous. So,
I mean, Capcom hasn't disappointed me, like, in their game. Like, I think that, last generation, they fired on most of their cylinders. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't worry me, but it's kind of like we were talking about last episode, Angela, where it's like, at what point do these alterations destroy the game that you remember and make something completely new? And if that's the case, why not just make a new Resident Evil in the vein of the remake? And maybe use that as a launching point for, because the Resident Evil franchise needs help. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
That game is paced around the speed at which you're able to maneuver your character. If you change that, you have to change the rest of the game to match.
Yeah.
You have to.
And also I'm a staunch defender of the tank controls. I can maneuver Chris and Jill around that mansion like with ninja-like reflexes. I'm so with those controls.
I can, but I'm okay with. I can totally understand what people. I played like the original. What was it called? Tenchu Stealth Assassins. I played that game and I was pretty good at it. So I'm okay with like weird control schemes and tank control-y type things because that was a very actiony game that you had to play with semi-tank controls, very similar to Resident Evil's control scheme.
Yeah, I guess it had sort of tanky controls now that I'm back to it.
It really did. The thing is, you're not, if you stick with the tank controls, you're not going to attract the new audience that you need, right? If you change them and don't properly balance the rest of the game to match it, you're going to really, really screw up the old audience. Those are the people that really want to play this game, are the people that played the original Resident Evil, right? And they like want the new shiny version of it, and maybe they didn't have a GameCube, so now they're super excited that they can get it on their non-Nintendo console, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and also people like Michael117, who I know for a fact, has tried to play the first Resident Evil and didn't like it. And I told him, you need to play the remake, and I don't think he ever got a chance to, so.
The thing I really like about those tank controls is it reminds me of like an Imagist in painting or something like that, like, where you paint the feeling of what it looks like rather than what it actually looks like, and turning like that as far as the tank goes is what it feels like to me when you're actually scared, like everything slows down and you move slowly, but it's mostly because you're in shock and everything, and that's kind of what it feels like to play those early Resident Evil games for me. It's like you're in shock of like these things going on around you, and when you change the button scheme for that, it takes the horror away and brings more action.
Also, it's not too far removed from a lot of older gaming schemes. Like if you looked at racing games back then, like RC Pro-Am or Rock and Roll Racing or Super, I forget what it was called, the truck racing game, they all controlled like that. You had a top-down view or a bird's eye view of the race course, and you turned your vehicle not based on the direction you wanted the vehicle to go, but based on the cardinal directions that the driver would be turning the vehicle. So basically the same, similar to the way you would have to control your character in Resident Evil. So it's second nature to people that are, well, not maybe second nature, but it's familiar to somebody who, like us, who have grown up with that sort of thing. It's the same reason I have to invert my controls on a lot of games I played, because when you played a flight sim back in the 80s or in the early 90s, you didn't have the option to change it so that they weren't inverted. Down was up and up was down, and you were dealing with it, So then we grew to like it.
Well,
or at least accept it.
But my thing, and it's actually more practical, like the reason that I like the tank controls is because a lot of those early games were pre-rendered backgrounds that were preset camera angles, and those camera angles would change drastically from room to room, but you always knew that up was forward and down was backwards. So it didn't matter if the camera was changing on you, multiple times in the same room, you always knew which direction you were going to go. Like, and to counter that, I will actually go back to the original Fatal Frame, which did have analog control, but still had pre-rendered backgrounds. And what would always happen to me is I would get into a new area, and I would move forward on the analog stick to go forward, and the camera angle would change, and I would go backwards to the previous screen, and do that about 3 or 4 times before I got, used to where I needed to actually move the analog stick on the second camera change. So there's a reason for it, guys.
It makes sense with what they just had to do in order to make it work. I mean, that's what you had to work with. You didn't have the ability to fully render a 3D environment in that level of detail. And if you didn't have that level of detail, then you would lose the immersion factor. Because half of what makes that game scary is how it looks. You have to get sucked into it. And that's one of the things that the HD remake on the GameCube, which is what they're basing this off of, I believe, did really well, was it brought that up to modern standards, where it was still pre-rendered backgrounds, but holy crap, does it look good.
Yeah. I'm I thought they would never try to remake this game in HD just because those backgrounds were so detailed. I know that pre-render takes a lot more work, but, if they were willing to put in the effort, I'm all for it. And I'm also hopeful that it'll be sort of like, what Nintendo did with, A Link Between Worlds on 3DS, where, they were definitely, going back to the well, but hopefully it kind of gave them the key to the future for Zelda. And I hope that, Capcom kind of sees the same thing here, where it's man, this first Resident Evil was, so well-paced and so tense, and, the resource management was such a big part of the game, and maybe that it isn't good to have it to where you can just blow things away, with all of these machine guns and stuff and not have to worry about that crap. Maybe there is something to going back to this type of game.
You also have the trope of the haunted house, which is probably the most important as far as horror stories go, because it's the one that probably comes closest to home for everybody. You always hear the weird creaks in the house, or whatever is going on around, your place, and a lot of the other things that are happening, the later Resident Evils are all a little bit weirder and out there. I think is it the 4th or the 5th one that's pretty much just all outside in Africa, and it's is that even really a scary setting at all?
Right.
I think a lot of what makes a good scary story successful is isolation. And you get that in Resident Evil because you're isolated to the mansion. You cannot leave the mansion, the mansion and the grounds, I should say. But you're stuck in the mansion. You can't get out of the mansion. There's nothing you can do about it. You're stuck here with this stuff and you have to deal with it. It's what makes the original Alien movie very good. In fact, I remember somebody saying the original Alien movie is like a sci-fi haunted house in space.
Yeah, it definitely is.
That is a trope for a very good reason. Take something familiar, take something comfortable, turn it upside down, and make it out to get you. Make the fact that this is an enclosed space that keeps you safe, all of a sudden now you're in this with something else, and now it's terrifying. So, I hope they can keep that. I don't know, did they mention, I don't remember now, if they were going to keep pre-rendered backgrounds, or if they were going to go switch to full 3D.
The way that I read it, it seemed like they're just remastering the pre-rendered backgrounds. Now it is going to allow you to go from to play it in widescreen, but it sounds like, me being a purist, I probably want to play it in its original aspect ratio, because they were saying certain background elements might end up a little bit off if you're playing it in widescreen. So it does sound like it's not going to be fully polygonal. Which, awesome. If they can pull that off, even though I don't care, but if they pull that off, then Square Enix has some explaining to do about Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because I still say that if you take that game and people have been arguing about this since, I don't know when, but they've been arguing about it for just forever. I want a Final Fantasy VII Remake. Sorry. Tell me about how I'm wrong. I don't care. I want a Final Fantasy VII Remake. I want it in HD. I want it retranslated in a story that makes more sense.
I just want them to release the recent PC version on my consoles, because I think that, it's in 720p. It looks great. It was retranslated. They just needed to fix the emulation on the soundtrack. But I don't mind playing them with the old polygons because once you get them up to that resolution, they still look nice. I wouldn't mind a remake either. I'm just saying, like I also wouldn't mind 7, 8, and 9 on a single disc or digital download for PS4 and Xbox One or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know what I want. I know I don't want horse hooves anymore, though. I wish they could do away with those cheaper looking polygonal models and give us something nicer, like the stuff they have in the battle. But then you have to do that with all the NPCs as well, and now you're talking about way more effort and time and money.
You also lose a little bit of the charm in some of the scenes, like, Cloud in the dress and stuff like that. And the squat thrusts.
That's true. The charm or the barely being able to see what's happening.
Yeah, that too. Let's see, you know what? I'm gonna put a pin in the Last Ninjas, I'm gonna put a pin in Super Steps, Atheists and Unbelievers one, because I think we can make that into a bigger show.
Okay. I know an atheist.
Yeah. I think that's a really good topic, and we're running a little long. So I think we'll just hit these last two real quick. The Last Ninja says, I know this topic has been covered a lot, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the great console war between the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Tell us where you were at the time, how old you were, and which system you stood behind and why. Finally, tell us your thoughts on the console war looking back and how it has affected gaming in general. I will say that Patrick and I talked a lot about this in our 90s episode, which is episode 20 of Nerds Without Pants, but I don't mind talking about it a little more, but Angelo, you kind of already said that, you were a Nintendo kid.
Oh.
But were you a staunch defender, or were you?
Oh, yes. Okay. Absolutely. I was getting Nintendo Power Magazine as a kid. I was reading it religiously. I would read them, the magazines would come out, I'd read them multiple times. I was indoctrinated, if you will, to the point where there was a Sega Master System at one point on display somewhere, and I didn't want to touch it, because I was like, why would I dirty my hands with this thing? So, when the Genesis came out, there wasn't even a question of which one I want to go with. I want a Super Nintendo, and the rest, nobody else in my family really wanted a Genesis either. They were like, well, we had the Nintendo. That was great. Why wouldn't we want their next one? Why would we go with this other company that we haven't really, why would we go with something new? So then my cousin, who they ended up getting a Sega, and of course then that led to the banter that the 90s kids had, the arguments on the playground and all that stuff. But I think I cared about it way more than he did. But yeah, I was definitely, in hindsight, I could tell you that there were advantages and disadvantages to both of the systems. I think Nintendo just did a better job of managing their hardware. I think. I mean,
it was the one time that Nintendo ever actually made a system that was more powerful than the competitors. Yeah, it's the one time, and it was great.
Mm-hmm. Everyone loved it. Everyone programmed for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because Donkey Kong Country is really more of a trick. There's no FX chip on that. It's nothing souped up. There's no special processors on the cartridge. They just did really, really well rendered sprites. And they used the powerful stuff was all on the back end. To make this stuff look 3D, we're gonna make it in 3D and then take sprites of the 3D images and use that in the game.
Yeah.
And that was really smart. And then the level design, they used shadows to hide, the lines so that you couldn't see the different layers in the sprites and stuff. I could go on and on about this, but Donkey Kong Country was one of the greatest tricks Nintendo ever pulled.
Yeah,
it was a solid game. It wasn't like they were pulling the wool over your eyes and saying we're going to give you a crappy game and selling the graphics. It was a fun game to play.
Miyamoto would disagree.
Never heard.
Well, I mean, that's the whole reason we got Yoshi's Island, was because Miyamoto was really angry about Donkey Kong Country.
And I would rather play Donkey Kong Country than Yoshi's Island. I'm sorry.
Get off this podcast, Angelo.
Sorry.
What did he not like about it?
What, Yoshi's Island?
Yeah. Oh no, what did Miyamoto not like about Donkey Kong Country that he had to change?
The graphics specifically. Yeah. Like he really did not like the pre-rendered graphics, and he had been told that his next Mario game had to look like that, and he was like, "No, you know what? I'm going to do something completely different." And then we got Yoshi's Island, and it's one of the most magical Mario games ever made.
I love the way Yoshi's Island looks. I will give you that, but I just didn't enjoy playing it that much.
I loved ricocheting the eggs, and some of those bosses are amazing, and it's like, I mean, you gotta put up with like...
rented, so maybe I didn't give it enough of a shot, but...
Yeah.
I didn't own the game. And I didn't know anybody that owned it, so...
Patrick, I take it you were also Nintendo?
No, actually I had a Genesis. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, a little bit earlier, like when my mom asked me like who was gonna win in the long run, I thought it was Sonic because he was faster, and I was, so young that I didn't put much thought into actual, depth of a game.
You reap what you sow.
Yeah. But I mean, I was too young at the time to make a decision like that in the end, and I went to my friend's house a lot anyway to play like Mario and stuff like that, but I did get, the version of Mortal Kombat that had blood, right? So...
Yeah, the inferior version. I said it. Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat 1 is so much better.
Oh man, the Super Nintendo version of Street Fighter is the best.
Well, but Mortal Kombat, like.
Mortal Kombat, but Street Fighter?
Well, yeah, definitely,
But Tekken though.
Was not out yet, continue.
Now you can play Virtua Fighter 2 on Genesis, which is actually kind of a neat trick. I thought that was kind of cool, because they turned, like, the polygon models into sprites, and I thought that was kind of awesome.
It's a similar thing, kind of.
I think I've said it before on the show, and I've actually written articles about it, but just like you, Angelo, I was indoctrinated. I was brainwashed by Nintendo Power. I mean, straight up. I mean, we have an episode of this show called Nintendo Propaganda. And I mean, really, like, that's what Nintendo Power was. I remember, and I think I talked about this before, but if not, like, it's worth repeating. Like, I loved the change in the Nintendo message, because there was that time, when they were working with Sony for that CD add-on for the Super Nintendo.
Yep.
And they had this huge article about how amazing CD-ROM technology was. But then when that deal fell through and the Nintendo 64 started to loom, like, all of a sudden you started to have all of these messages about how terrible loading times were, and, like, how bad the graphics were on CD-ROM technology, and how really the only way to do, like, the next generation graphics that Nintendo needed to do, they had to go with, like, a high-capacity cartridge. And I was like, what the hell just happened? Like, and it was very much like communist-type stuff, where it's like, it's like, like in the, or even like 1984, where it's like in the same sentence, they go from, like, saying that, like, India is the bad guy to saying that China is the bad guy, and you just keep on rolling with it because, like, you're just so indoctrinated. Like, it was very much like that. And I just thought, like, that's kind of where I started to break with Nintendo a little bit. I mean, I was still a big Nintendo fan.
Well, what's funny is I remember, too, when they were really pushing the Satellaview over here, and they had it in Nintendo Power. I remember they had a spread where it was a page of emoticons, and explained how emoticons worked and how to use them when you were typing to people, with the idea that you were going to have this cartridge that you put into your Super Nintendo and then plugged into your phone line, and then were able to communicate by... You guys remember this?
I might have not been reading Nintendo Power by that point.
I was reading it then, and then they just stopped. That was the last... I don't know if they ever talked about it in a later issue, but I remember that issue with the emoticons and everything, and this big thing that you were going to be able to do with the Super Nintendo, and that was the last I heard of it.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of weird too.
20 years later, I am willing to grudgingly say that the Genesis had a lot of great games on it. Mm-hmm. And it did, from everything that I've ever read, the Genesis did end up outselling the Super Nintendo when all was said and done. But I feel justified in saying that if you go back and look at both systems and you go back and play those games now, I still feel the Super Nintendo is far superior as far as, like, quality of the library and just, graphic capability, sound capability. I mean, Angela, like you say, like, the Genesis had its certain strengths and, with, like, its sound processor and stuff. But, like, when it comes time to me, like, listening to some old school, like, 16-bit tunage, it's gonna be all from the Super Nintendo. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Actually, I'm not sorry, because I feel that, like, I can play those games for the rest of my life and still enjoy them as much as I did when I was a teenager. And I don't really feel that way about a lot of that Genesis stuff.
if we're talking about pure chiptunes, I prefer the NES to
Well, yeah.
anything.
Sure.
But one thing I liked about Sega, if I'm going to be positive on them, here's the thing: like they're such polar opposite companies in certain ways, like absolute polar opposites. Where you had Super Nintendo and Nintendo behind them, which is super conservative, and they don't want to take any chances, and they don't want to take risks. And I think that's a big reason why they dropped the CD add-on. And then you have Sega, on the other hand, who any time they had an idea, they just went with it. You had the 32X. You had the Sega CD. You had all this crazy stuff that never really went anywhere. So they like taking chances a little too much.
Yo, you still don't own a Sega CD.
Oh, I remember that too.
To their detriment, because that's a large reason why the Saturn didn't do well. Let's put aside the fact that they announced it the same day that they released it, with like no fanfare, and not even tell the retailers, except for like KB Toys. It's the fact that they had burned so many customers with the Sega CD and with the 32X, that by the time the Sega Saturn came, people were like, no, we're done, dude. Like, we're going to Sony.
And I think the system architecture was kind of a put-off for developers, because I don't know how much... Oh, okay, you do. Man, that thing, I still don't know.
Well, like, so different.
It's a mess.
Basically, the story goes that they had their system all set up, and then they said, oh, it's not really good at doing 3D, it's good at doing sprites, and that's about it. And PlayStation's out, and PlayStation does 3D, and blah, 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 blah. So what they did was they basically came to this weird compromise where the system had a daughter board. So it had a motherboard, and then it had a daughter board, which is something that's really weird. From a hardware perspective, that's just not something you really want to do unless you absolutely have to, so they apparently felt they had to. So now you have to code for 2 separate chipsets when you're writing a game for this system. And it's a little crazy.
There's a reason why there's never been Sega Saturn games re-released, like, in different forms, because, they can't do it. It can be done, but, like, the cost for it is so prohibitive that they're not going to make a profit off of that.
Right. It's something else.
So, I am happy that that I played Panzer Dragoon Saga, because I bought it.
I love the way Saturn games look, though, because they do that big sprite, scaly, turny thing that I absolutely adore, that we were talking about before. You show me a good engine that really makes good use of sprites and really pulls all the stops, and I thought the Saturn was capable of that, and did it several times.
In that bundle I was talking to you about with Jet Set Radio and Sonic Adventure, I also got Nights into Dreams, which is a Saturn game, right? Because I think that one...
That was remade, though.
On the Dreamcast, wasn't it?
Wait. No. No, but I think the PS... it was on the Saturn originally, but I think that one was kind of redone, like, from the ground up for the PS2. Like, I don't think it was using any of the stuff from the Saturn version. Because I think the PS2 version is also what they used to make the HD version for, like, Xbox Live Arcade and stuff like that. Because they couldn't go back to the Saturn version. I might be wrong about that.
That makes sense to me.
Either way.
The Saturn version, like we were just talking about, it's impossible to redo. And I'll bet you they lost the source code. What do you think? Go on, Patrick. I'm sorry.
Well, no, just either way, it's a really fun game, and I would like to have more of those, on the PlayStation, but you can't have everything that you want.
Yeah. But, we can have, our comfort food games, which is all that Transmet 2033 said. He said, I'm stealing the phrase, but comfort food games, which I've never heard before, so I'm gonna credit it to you, Transmet, because I think that sounds awesome. But yeah, what are, and this will be our last thing before we wrap up, but what are, like, the games that you come back to when, like, you're just down and out and kind of bummed out and, you just need some video game that just makes you feel alright again?
If I were to pick, like, games that I replay frequently because I enjoy them, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one, Legend of Zelda Link to the Past is another, and Super Mario World is another one. So I think those are the big ones. I've also replayed the original Final Fantasy a bunch of times, but I don't know if I'm going to go back there. I might go back there again at some point, because that was my first RPG and I just love it. So I think those are mine. I hope I answered the question right.
Yeah, I mean, if those are the ones that comfort you.
Those are definitely it. They're very familiar. They're games I know inside and out. They're games I've replayed multiple times, and I really like them. So.
Yeah, mostly I don't go back to games. I do like new games because games take so much time to go through the first time. I feel like I got to move on because there's all these other good things out there. But the games I really come back to are few and far between, but they include like the Ratchet and Clank series, obviously.
Right.
Love doing that. But I go back like watching videos of stuff maybe instead of like playing the actual game more so than actually going back and playing it. Maybe it's like akin to looking at a photo instead of going back through your memories again or something. But I did just watch like the fact of Ocarina of Time ever. I don't know if you guys saw this hitting the webs last week, but the guy beats it in 18 minutes and something seconds.
It's getting more and more ridiculous.
What?
Yeah,
is this tool assisted or just straight speedrun?
Just glitching through it, right? Like there's those crazy glitches.
Yeah, there's all these really nuts glitches, and the guy like overdubs it with himself speaking about it, and like who finds these glitches, and like how long it took him to get there, like to the ability to do that glitch, and like all these different things that could have went wrong, and then like how this was the most clutch thing that he did in a video game at one point, but it still could have went wrong afterwards anyway. Like the whole thing was just so nuts. I was like tense, even though that I knew he won. It was awesome to watch, and anybody can watch it because it's, really short, but like, I definitely recommend it.
Nice. Yeah, speedrun stuff, like, I know I could never do it because like, I just don't have that dedication to like play something over and over and over and over like that, but like the people who do, it's pretty amazing. Yes, Angelo.
I just thought of two more games that I really like to go back to. I love the original balloon fight. I don't know what it is. I will play that. It's just it's a good fun 2-player game too. And the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game.
The arcade game or the NES?
Both. I will play either one of them and love them. So.
You know what would be great, and this goes, I mean, you have to emulate it, but it'd be really amazing if some, like, really excellent sprite artists took the ROM of the arcade version and was able to make arcade quality versions of the NES exclusive levels.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool.
That'd be amazing. Cause that's the thing. Yeah.
Just take that game and bump it up to that level of quality. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
And then put out the definitive version.
Right? Oh man, that'd be awesome. I mean, for me, it's a bunch of little things. Like I think if we're going like old school, I cannot fire up my NES without playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for at least 10 minutes. But usually I end up playing it for a lot longer because that was one of the very first NES games that I played, but also it just feels so good, and I love the little puzzle aspect of it. I love the graphics. It's got one of the best soundtracks on the Nintendo, even though it's only like 2 songs. Just can't get enough of that game. I mean, the new Punch-Out is the reason I bought my Wii. Like, straight up. Like, that was what made me, like, buy that system. Then I regretted it because that game was hella hard. But so definitely Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. If we're talking Super Nintendo, it's completely Super Metroid and Final Fantasy IV.
Super Metroid's a good one too.
Oh yeah, like, actually when my Xbox Red Ringed for the first time, the second time, and I couldn't afford, because it was out of the warranty, so I had to actually buy a new Xbox and I couldn't afford it. I went back to my Super Nintendo, and the first thing I played was Super Metroid, and I was like, this game still has so much to teach us about game design. It's just so perfect. Love that game so much. And more recent, and I mean, this is very true because it actually has comforted me in times when I've been kind of down on video games in general, or really, like finish some big game and I just don't know what to do next, and or need a palate cleanser or whatever. It's Mass Effect 1. Like, that is my game of the generation. Like, I'm not even, like, there are plenty of better made games. There are plenty of more important games, but there were no games in the 7th generation that captured me like the first Mass Effect. And I, like, every time that I beat that game, I start a new game immediately with a new character. Even if I don't keep playing with that character, just to have, like, there's so much potential in the first Mass Effect. It's sort of like the first Matrix movie, where, like, when you get to the end of it, like, it's like the universe is open to you and you don't know what's going to happen next. It may not stick the landing as well as it could in Mass Effect 2 and 3, but, you know, at least that first adventure of whatever Shepard you create just has so much possibility, and I hope that, you know, BioWare remembers that game when they go to make the new Mass Effect, because, again, like Super Metroid, there's a lot of, like, excellent stuff in there that they could learn from that they just completely ripped out of the series after that first game.
Yeah. You know, I was gonna say, I didn't mention anything from the Xbox and the 7th generation, but I think the ones that stuck with me more so than even, like, Halo, like, I don't know if Halo would actually be qualified as one of my comfort food games, but I think the original Ninja Gaiden would on Xbox. Not the original Ninja Gaiden, the modern Ninja Gaiden. I think I go back and I do replay that.
So technically 6th generation game.
Yeah, 6th generation is what I meant. And then 7th generation, you know, when you mentioned 7th generation, I was like, I didn't mention anything from that. But it might be Dark Souls. I'm not sure. But it might be Dark Souls. That might end up being, I won't know until we go past, and it's like, man, I really want to play something from that from 7th gen. What do I want to play? And I think it's going to end up being Dark Souls.
See, I feel like it's too punishing to be considered a comfort food game. Like, it's got to make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, not like your insides are being pulled out from your sphincter.
But once you know it, it's way easier to play. That's the thing. Is Dark Souls is all about discovery, and then once the game teaches you what it wants you to do in a particular situation, and then you go do it, you know, the second time and you go back and you do it again, it's not nearly as bad.
It's like comfort in the fact that you've mastered this.
Yeah, I can get that.
Something
Okay.
like that.
I'll get behind you on that. So, yeah, I think that's going to do it for this show. Again, sorry to Superstep for that we didn't get to your second topic, but I think it's a really good one, so we're definitely going to do something with that at some point. But yeah, thank you to the community for giving us some great topics. We're going to do this again for sure. These are really fun. Never know what you guys are going to come up with, and they're always a blast. Next episode, Angelo's going to be in, the magical world of Disney. And he was supposed to be hosting the show that week. So we're going to put a pin in that topic, and we'll figure something out. We might have a guest or something. But until then, you can always find us on Twitter. Angelo.
I am at a roguish ham.
Patrick.
At some boss.
You can find me at Julian_Titus. Thank you as always for listening. I hope you enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun to do. Part of our, upgrading the apparatus, because I think us being able to see each other has cut out about 85% of us talking over each other. And by talking over each other, I mean talking over Patrick. So, that's gonna do it for this episode. Thanks again. For myself, Angelo, and Patrick, thanks for listening, and keep it pantsless, Internet. Goodbye.
You look completely chill though, dude. You're just relaxing.
I almost don't mind it, you know?
Well, it's sort of like, for the longest time, I've just been looking at your picture from your Europe trip, and I just see your voice coming out of that picture, you just looking completely nonplussed. So.
Yeah, and for Angelo, it's like I had this whole body for you, dude. Like, today I didn't see anything at all, and it's like I created this imaginary person already, and you have this imaginary home, and...
Yeah, I didn't expect Angelo to look like the youngest person on the podcast.
Oh, yeah? Younger than Patrick? 'Cause,
I don't know. I think so. I don't know. You look pretty youthful to me.
Does that mean I look old?
No, I just
I'm saying the
Angelo's
opposite.
got a baby face.
Yeah.
I mean, you do too, Patrick. You've got like this little cherub thing going on, but.
We didn't talk about Azure Striker Gunvolt either. I thought we would.
We might talk about it when the Capcom thing comes up, or when the Resident Evil thing comes up.
Yep.
Because I've got Capcom hope from them doing that, so that might be a good time to talk about
I
it.
got Capcom fear, man. But we'll do this.
Cool. Alrighty.
I've got Cap Condom.
I'm picturing whiskers.
What?
Cat. I heard cat.
Oh. Well,
I know you said cap, but I heard cat.
Oh, okay.
You really should be picturing like a Mega Man blaster.
Oh.
Constantly charging.
Come in.
That would be awesome. The condoms have decals on them or something.
Actually, I'm pretty sure you could probably get some Mega Man condoms in Japan.
Electro Man on there. Elect Man. Not Electro. Elect Man. Oh my gosh.
Actually, if you're a real bro, you get the Gutsman ones, because you're going to be up in them.
There's gotta be good ones. Hang on.
That's the worst thing I've ever said on this show.
No, there's some other good ones. This is fertile ground, no pun intended. For some good jokes.
Alright. I think this is going to the outtakes.